Hello, welcome to the Record Celtic Podcast. My name is Daniel Cohen. I'm delighted to be joined by the one and only Michael Gannon. Mick, how's it going?
Not bad, mate. Afternoon. How's yourself?
Afternoon, I'm very good, thanks. You're on. We were just saying before you come on here, you're on a bit of a run at the minute. A summer run.
I'm deep in pre-season training. May not tell by looking at me after the state me and the weight I've piled on this summer. But I was we're done a busy wee spell. So with Cork in Portugal, and now we're with the game at the weekend against Newcastle. Then it's getting the pants iron to get to Italy for the next leg. So it's been a bit of a hectic kind of spell. But all good fun.
The you mentioned obviously the game yesterday against Newcastle. That's probably the best place for us to start. It's good that when it comes to pre-season, Celtic the last few years have become invincible. I mean, last couple of years, Man City, Chelsea, Newcastle, battering them all.
They love scudding English teams, don't they? Celtic, historically they've always enjoyed getting on over the old enemy. Even after the game yesterday, I think Brendan Rodgers had a big beaming smile and they better crack him after the game. And he quite enjoys beating English teams as well. But listen, I think it's more a sign of the way Brendan Rodgers and Celtic in general treat these pre-season games. I think it's different for Newcastle. Newcastle are kind of listen. You got to the first thing is they're a week behind in terms of fitness. I think they get battered out in Austria, and you could tell they're a bit leggy, because it really showed. But in terms of Celtic, I think they use it because the European games come in usually quite quickly as well. Celtic use these games as a good run out to try and test themselves against good teams and to see how they cope, especially physicality. When you look at Newcastle, you don't quite get to see it in TV. That even their wee guys are big, strong brutes. I was watching Hayato Inamura for a few 10 minutes. Just to see up close how he was getting on up against Jacob Murphy, who's obviously played about 300 games for Newcastle on the top flight. I always thought he was a wee guy, and you see him, and honestly, he's like a linebacker. He's got shoulders like this, but like a tank, and he's the wee guy. But the rest of them, it was quite funny. I thought Luke McCowan played well yesterday as well, but at times he was bouncing off some folk. He was keen as mustard to get back up and get back in again. But the physicality of these teams, and that's what you face in the Champions League level, and I think they're a good run in that, and not even just in that respect for Celtic to get used to that kind of environment. But yeah, the record against in pre-season is really, really good. I mean, it's I think you can get back. I think they get stuffed 6-2 by West Ham a few years ago, didn't they?
That's true.
There's always a few stinkers in there. But yeah, the last two games, Sporting Lisbon and then Newcastle, I think there's been really positive signs. I think what it's been is a wee reminder, because listen, we're all guilty of it, especially in the media as well. And it's about transfers and incomings and signings, and it's a wee bit obsessive. And Celtic fans, historically as well, are a wee bit panicky in pre-season. They're desperate to see players coming in. They see guys leaving. They get a bit worried. Get a bit jittery. I think these two performances think, well, hold on a minute. Remember, there are good players at the club. This is a team going back-to-back doubles. Should have won the treble last year. Did well in the Champions League last year. All right, they've lost a few since then, and they do need signings. There's no doubt about that. But there is guys in that squad who are very good. I'm looking at guys like Rio Hatate. Thought Arnie Ings was good. Cal McGregor again, strolling it. I think guys, I think Tony Ralston had a good game yesterday. I mean, Austin Trusty was excellent. I
was going to come to him. I thought he was brilliant.
We'll get to him, yeah. Then you see guys like Kieran Tierney back, like he's never been away. New guys, I think, look in the part, like Benjamin Negron has looked a class act. I mentioned Inamura, who's surprised everyone, including his own manager, I think. So Yang was good against Newcastle. I think there's just signs that it's just a wee reminder that there's good players at Celtic already, and if they add to it, it can be quite a kind of frightening prospect, especially certainly domestically.
The two names that you mentioned there were two that I wanted to come to, Inamura and Trusty, because we know Trusty obviously had a big price tag for Scottish football. He's obviously played at a really good level, but I think it's fair to say his debut season was a wee bit underwhelming. I think that's a fair comment, but I think this season coming could be a big season for him. I think he's going to be a really big player for Celtic.
I think underwhelming might be harsh. I think inconsistent. Maybe
that's probably better. That's true.
I'm starting to think that Austin Trusty suffers from a wee bit from kind of Carl Starfelt-itis, and that the bigger the game, the better he is. Like I think. I watched him at Cork the other week, right? And honestly, you think he won a raffle to a game, right? He was howling. Really, really, really. I mean, Austin Rusty. I mean, he really was. Pardon the pun. But you see him against Newcastle when he had to be switched on and it was physical. And he was excellent. He was everywhere. I mean, a couple of wee moments when he kind of had a few scares. He got booked in pre-season. It was always good, but he got booked by great. It was a good tackle. It was a good booking. If that had been a Champions League, you'd be going, that's a good booking because it was the guy who was away from him. They pulled him down. It was smart defending. So I thought he was good. I thought he was. I think. Listen, last year you got to give him a bit of account. He had a newborn baby and all that stuff, which is never easy to deal with. The kind of the stress and the build up to that, and then afterwards is difficult. These guys are human beings. You got to take that into account as well. It's moving country, having a new family, starting a new family. These are things that are tough. So I think he had things going on behind the scenes as well. And I think it showed. I mean, I thought it was great. Atalanta was the one that stand out, wasn't it? I thought he was perfect that night. Then there's games like the St Johnstone game when he was all over the camp, really bad. I know dropped for big games that you thought he might have played.
I mean, just thought, see the St Johnstone example, mate. That's what I was going to come to that. And I think there was a night against Dundee. It was particularly ropey. Remember, it cut to Rodgers and he didn't, you could almost make it what he was saying. But look, but all the point I'd make is that, look, I know Scottish football is denigrated a lot. I know there's not a lot of money in Scottish football. I know it's not the best league in the world, but I don't care who you are, right? See, getting thrown into, I don't know, Dens Park on a Wednesday night in December and Simon Murray's elbowing you every 2 minutes. You're going to be like, oh, what's going on here? Like, it's going to take you a bit of time to get used to it. Like, I think...
Again, and the same thing happened with Starfelt. By the way, Carson was a guy who has got better since his absence. People lament him. They lump him in with your kind of the guys that left before. Your kind of like your Juranoviches and your Abadas and your Matt O'Reillys and Kyogo. But for a while he was getting slaughtered as well. And he did a few dodgy ones before he came good in his second season. So yeah, I think there's a player there. He's an international player. He's played in the English Premier League and the Championship. I think he could be fine. He just needs to be consistent. He needs to have that kind of mentality and aggression that he showed in some of the bigger games last season and at the weekend. He's got to show every week. If he does that, he will play every week. So I think Liam Scales is kind of taken for granted a wee bit, much kind of undervalued sometimes. I think he's a good player for Celtic.
Cracking goal yesterday as well.
Yeah, really steady influence. Another international, by the way. I think it's because it's familiarity breeds a bit of contempt sometimes. He's absolutely fine as well. But if Trusty does have the kind of, I think Trusty at his best is probably first choice, but he's got to be his best on a weekly basis. That's the key to it, I think, for him.
So that's one of the areas that a lot of fans have said, look, maybe need another centre half this summer. I maybe don't agree, just in the sense that, as you say, Scales, Trusty, maybe even Inamura.
By the way, I would also now maybe throw in Dane Murray into the mix.
Aye. Good shout, aye.
Listen, Dane Murray is a guy who I wasn't sure if he was going to crack it or not. I must admit. But looking at him pre-season, he's looking. I mean, he's bulked out. He's monstrous at the moment.
He looks huge.
I still think he a tendency to dive in sometimes and commit himself, but that's experience. But I'm seeing signs that I thought he was good again. He was good in Lisbon. I thought he was good. Not in Lisbon, against Lisbon. Sorry, in Faro. I thought he was good at the weekend again against Newcastle. So I wouldn't be writing him off either. I mean, Stephen Welsh obviously has done his shoulder again. At the moment he's out, I fear he may be heading for another kind of loan deal. I don't know. Dane Murray might be the Welsh kind of replacement at this point in time. But I don't think that's the big priority. I think that's okay if they can get another centre half in a top level one. Then fair enough. But I don't think it's going to be giving Brendan Rodgers any sleepless nights at this point in time.
Well, the other kind of incoming since we last spoke on any of the Celtic pods.
Well, you mentioned Inamura, right? Actually, Inamura's interesting. No, sorry, before we move on from that part of the team, Inamura's a really interesting one, isn't he? Because it wasn't exactly a glowing. I mean, I'm not that's a bit harsh. I just think the narrative around him when he arrived was like, oh, we'll have a look at him. Chances are he'll go on loan. He's young, he's raw. He's only played a season in the top flight in the G League, coming through the university system, which we know is a good level in Japan. Hatate's the one that came through it as well, and so did Kyogo and these guys. So, but he's surprised a few people, and I think listen, the games, I think was it in Cork and then against Estrella, maybe hard to judge. I thought it was decent to go off the bench against Sporting Lisbon. I thought he was good, really good against Newcastle. I mean, I think fans were all like, this guy's actually, especially on the ball. I think defensively maybe need a bit of work, but I thought he coped well with Murphy. Some of it was a bit last gasp, and he made a few good blocks and stuff, and it's a bit flying by seat his pants. But that's what you're going to get. But no, I think there's definitely a player in there. What I like about him, he always played with his head up, which I know it sounds simple, but not everyone does it anymore. It's like he's always looking. Doesn't panic, doesn't get flustered. I mean, Celtic also play on the back, and you need two guys that are cool on the ball. And he doesn't get any panic, even under pressure. And he picks a pass. I thought he looked good.
He definitely looks like a player, or to me anyway, a first team player. You know, Rodgers talking about maybe going out on loan and a development player. He looks like he's got something to offer for the coming season.
I think it's going to take Tierney a good few weeks to get fully up to speed. So I think what you might see is him finishing, maybe playing 70 minutes, 60, 70 minutes some weeks. And I'm talking about once league season starts. You might get 20 minutes here and there in Scotland, in Inamura. And I think that we'll find out then. So maybe by the end of the window, we'll know if he can cut it or not. At this point in time, I still think it's a bit of gamble if Touchwood Tierney's okay, but if something like that happened to him, and he's got to start in the Champions League qualifier, I think then you've got that's a big question mark. I think that would be a major gamble at this stage after a couple of pre-season games.
They've got to still be looking at another left back, you'd have thought.
I would think so, but given as the weeks go on, I think, and seeing how he cope, especially if it's a few minutes here and there in Scotland as well, we might find out a bit more about him. And I think, I still think it's maybe too early to bank on him as the kind of the main backup, because he's not even a left back; he's a centre half.
Exactly.
But he's only played 20 top flight games as a centre half in Japan, so he can be moulded. Do you know what I mean? There's plenty of players that start in some stations and then change it as they go along. So he's an interesting one, but he definitely. When people were at the game yesterday, were raving about him.
People talk about that Celtic should spend the money and all that, and I get that. But see, yesterday when I was watching the game, and Negren's one we've not really mentioned, but Negren and Inamura, I was thinking about it for less than £2 million.
Yeah,
it's just amazing business. It's brilliant business. I know it's early days, you know.
Early days. I mean, early days, because remember the window 2 years ago when they bought, I think, 10 guys for about £2 million each, and some of them looked pretty handy. I remember looking at Odin Holm and thinking this kid's a wee schemer, that's a good wee player. Never hardly saw him again. Naroki, I thought looked all right when he first came in. Barely got a kick the ball. Lagerbielke maybe took a bit longer, and then he get bombed out as well. So the guys like that, Lou Palmer, I mean, he scored a few goals in his first season, and then now he's long since Marco Tellio, whenever really got to know him, he's away again. The less he did obviously we cameo at the weekend again at Newcastle, but there's guys that you see in pre-season, you think, oh, this boy looks a player. Don't take it. So it's very, very early to making judgments on these guys. First impressions good. Negren, I think, does look like a player. You can see it. Sometimes you can see that he's not so much a gamble. He's been capped with Sweden. You watch him move, and what I liked about him, he's not a shy lad. I mean, you see him. He shouts some balls on the pitch at teammates, and over in Portugal, he gave the referee a right good blast about something. You think it's a friendly, pal, calm down. But I like that. I mean, that's what's the old phrase? Shy Bairns got no sweets. So I like that. So that's a positive as well. And he's got a nice left peg. Again, let's see who gets on when it's 100 mile an hour and it's frantic and it's a plastic pitch and all this kind of nonsense. Or it's a derby match when all hell's breaking loose about you. Let's see how he copes then. But so far, so good with him.
Well, the other name I was going to mention there, we mentioned Inamura, but the other Japanese player that's obviously joined since we last did a Celtic podcast is Shin Yamada. We touched on it a wee bit earlier on, Mick, when Inamura arrived. You know, I would have forgiven him for being a bit kind of disappointed to hear Rodgers say, oh, do you know, he's a development player, he's a club signing, and same with Yamada.
In fairness, it didn't quite say he's a club signing, not quite that. I mean, that's the insinuation that the club have found the guy. But that's the same with all players, right? The club, i.e. the scouting department, recruitment team, and the manager, they find these guys. I think what it means is a long-term kind of one of these project players. Might be one. It's one for the future. Might be one for the now. And I think until Rodgers sees him up close in training, he'll decide what category that falls into. But we've spoken on this podcast before. There are signings that the club do kind of look to make, and they are that kind of ilk. They also want to make ready-made Champions League ready kind of sign as well. But that's not. I wouldn't say that's like a manager signing, a club signing. I mean, he's got a say in these things. There's something about this guy. He also did say this, lads. He's got pace. He can score a goal. He's got intensity which he likes. So I think he thinks he can see something he can do with him. If it doesn't turn out to be any good, chances are he might get hit with the kind of the Odin Home Louis Palma suite at Lennoxtown. Whereas you're not going to give the same demands. If he's £8 million, you're going to have to try and stick with him for a bit longer. So he'll go in. I think he said he's going to bring him in the list. He might be a development type player, even though he's 25, because of the nature of where he's coming from. But they'll bring him in, assess him, and see what it is. No cost a lot of money, do you know what I mean?
Aye.
But listen, talking to people about him, it does sound as though he's got a bit about him. I mean, the chat at the weekend is he's quicker than Dyson Maida.
I know, I saw that. Aye.
Which I'd love to see what he's puts in his cornflakes in the morning, if that's the case.
I'd love to see proof of that soon, because that seems like a remarkable claim.
Yeah, it might be quicker, but I don't know if he can do the repeat shuttle runs that Maida
exactly.
does, which is just incredible.
Well, you made the point I was going to make them, right? Is that I was going to say, obviously he's brought in and he's got this kind of tag that maybe he's a development player or whatever. But see, if you're Brendan Rodgers, surely has a say. Like you said, if Brendan Rodgers didn't want him there, he's not going to be there. Like
100%, he's not. He's not just. I think Brendan Rodgers has got a lot of self-confidence. I know that's hard to believe. But I sometimes think if he handed Brendan Rodgers 11 guys for the crowd, he finds himself getting the result.
Probably.
So he does. I mean, it's a joke. You kind of say it tongue in cheek. I was talking about Negrin. I was kind of trying to allude to the fact that the shades of Matt O'Reilly, and he's like that, right, steady on. We're going to sell him a £25 million yet, and he says, but you can develop, and he says, well, that's what I do.
That's the job, eh?
Right, that's what he said. But he said that's what I do. But kind of half jokingly, but it is what he does. So he'll think that, listen, there's tools that work with, I'll polish up. But he doesn't want to have to do that with every player. That's the point. The point is, he'll do that. He'll do that with Inamura. He'll do that with Yamada. I don't think he won't need to do as much with it with Negrin, because he's further down the line. So I think he's happy to do that, but he can't do that with 11 guys. It'd be exhausting. Exhausting having to work on 11 guys to polish up 11 guys and develop them. He loves doing it, but he can't do it with everyone. So I think he's happy to take on these projects and developments because he knows the club's model. He's more content with it than he was in his first spell. But he's also, by the way, don't make any doubt about it, he is pushing for some big hitters. He is. Yeah. I mean, I know for a fact that he's underlining, emphasising, banging the drum. He needs some big, proper recruits in the door that are not being polished up or not. There's no question marks about them. Ones that have got very low risk and they can go straight in his team and do a job. And he is, and he's determined to do that. So it's over to the guys behind the scenes to sort it out for him.
I feel like between the Hotline Live and the Celtic podcast, I've asked you this maybe 5 or 6 times in the last few weeks, but do you think he will? Do you think he'll get the players he's after?
I don't think he'll get all the players he's after, because you'll always push the boat and try and get more. But I think he will get in 3 or 4 fairly substantial signings. Yeah. It's just when they come in. Do they get them the next week or so, which would be ideal? Get them in the start of the season, get them playing for 2 or 3 weeks, and run at that qualifier, or do they need to sit tight and barter their way right through to the end of August and try and get it done before the qualifier? It's the question of when. It's not the if, because they'll bring in 3, 4, probably 3. I would be amazed if there was less than 3 £5 million plus players coming in.
Aye, that would make sense. Aye.
At least 3, or 3 £6 million plus players. So I think they'll spend £20 million, whether it's on 3 or 4 players. What you might find is they get 3 £6 million jobs or 6.5, £7 million, that kind of level of player, and maybe one kind of loan deal towards the end, a loan deal with a view to buying, something like that. We know the model, we've seen it every year. It's just a question of when and will they be ready for this qualifier? Because the qualifier changes things completely now. You need to have, but even so, I mean, I thought last year, Celtic were gambling leaving these guys late, given the fact the group stages were starting. They had a bit more time last year, but again, you want them up to speed to get into Europe. Champions League is the be all and end all for the first month of the season. really is. I mean, it's getting. Listen, that's not entirely true because they want to put a foot down and get a kind of authority in the league right early doors. Well, Rangers are kind of regrouping, but I still think the Champions League has to be the big focus. Has to be. So I can't keep saying it. They do need to get a wee shift on.
Am I being really naive by thinking that the money that they spend between now and the end of the transfer window isn't dependent on them getting into the Champions League this season?
No, it shouldn't be because when they've already brought in £20 million plus in transfer fees, chuck in the Kyogo money from January, season money. So the money.
It's not like they're sitting like previous seasons and going, right, we'll tell you what, this is the players we can get if we get there.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I think there's always concerns if we don't get there, you lump this wage bill that's going to be quite substantial. That's always a kind of balancing act. But they've got plenty of money in the bank. They can afford to give a year out of it. Not that they want to.
Aye.
But so I don't think. I think Celtic tend to spend similar amounts of money most years. I mean, they went above and beyond last year. They can argue whether or not it worked or not. I was still expecting them to spend what we've only spent maybe about 3 or 4 million now so far. I still expect we'll spend another 20 million quid.
Aye.
I think if we don't spend 20 million quid, I think I said before, if we don't spend 20 million quid, people are going to ask why.
Aye, exactly.
There's money in the bank. There's money in the bank. They've made sales. If we don't spend that kind of money, I know that it's not all about the money because listen, like you say, the guys like Negrin could come in, could be worth 20 million quid in 2 years' time. Don't know. So it's not always about the cash and what you spend, but I still think the aesthetics of it, they need to spend that kind of money. Otherwise, there's going to be people banging the door asking why.
Aye, no, I completely agree. Okay, I feel I've asked this a million times, but just while I've got you, you've obviously been, as you say, in Cork, in Portugal with Celtic. Brendan Rodgers, his contract. What is your gut feeling? Do you think we're going to be any closer anytime soon to hearing about his future? Do you think he will stay? Do you think he'll go? I realise this is a really big question thrown at you, but
I don't think we'll be any closer anytime soon. I don't know if he knows. I don't know if he knows in his heart of hearts yet what he's going to do, because if he was going to stay, he'd have said by now. All he needs to say is, yeah, I'm not interested in going anywhere. I'll sit down with him when I get a chance. Don't worry about it. I'll sit down at the end of the season. We'll get a contract sorted out. I need to win the league, otherwise they won't want me anyway. So he could easily just say, yeah, I want to stay. I'm not looking at going anywhere. We'll talk about it. I'm not in any panic, any rush. I'll sit down with Dermot and Desmond and we'll work it out. But he hasn't said that, so he's keeping the doors open. Is that because he doesn't want to reveal what he's thinking, or is that because he doesn't know what he's thinking yet? That's the question. And the only person that can answer it is Brendan Rodgers, and he's not doing it. And everybody else is talking about it, and it's going to bore us. It's boring us already. We're already getting a bit.
I know.
So my gut feeling is I think he's leaving himself at the open door to say, right. I think he might call it a day at the end of the season. But
that's your gut feeling. You think this could be his last season?
Gut feeling. I think so. I think because he's not said that he wants to continue. I just think he might fancy a break or a change or something different challenge. I don't know. I think, and either way, I don't think it's relying on. I mean, if he loses the league, I think he'll maybe go and people will probably say, right, fair enough. That's how it is in Glasgow, whether it's justified or harsh or not. If he wins, you might think, well, I've done that. I'll pass it on to somebody else. I've done 3 years, 3 in the bounce. I don't know. It's just my feeling is I think this could be his last year. But he's been very enigmatic about it. So it might be that he gets to a point and he wants to commit. But I say that would be a surprise to me at this moment.
For what it's worth, I actually agree with you. I think
not many do about anything.
No, I just think, like you say, he decided if he was staying, and it's so much. It's the task of, I saw Gordon Strachan's comments in the week talking about it and saying that when he got to his 4th season, playing the same teams every week, the pressure, it just becomes a lot. If you're talking about doing it for a 4th year, it's a lot for anyone. And again, we talked about styles, the standard of Scottish football, but forget the standard. The pressure is unparalleled. Don't care who you are.
I take that point, but I actually think it's perhaps a lack of pressure at times that might make it.
That's a good point. Actually, I know what you mean.
There were times last season you're watching. Listen, through a spell through the Christmas period when it was like 4-0, games were like 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, 3-0, 4-0, right the way through. and you're watching the games, and it's like waiting for that first goal, and the first goal scored, the game's done, and it's a question of how many, and it's like, and even times it didn't come, it's like, well, you know, it's kind of going to come, and it's like, and managers are adrenaline junkies. I mean, they thrive on that kind of weird fix on the touchline, that kind of high wire they need to walk, and there's a lot of weeks when that's not quite there. And you need, and not just great at it. He kind of falsely creates narratives to motivate his team to avoid falling into that kind of boredom factor on a weekly basis. I think when the challenge is stronger, it focuses it more. When you get a 16-point gap, it's so difficult. And I think you've seen it last season. But he's good at kind of creating narrative around certain things, whether it's putting bullseyes in the back of the press and calling us the bad guys, or it's talking about everyone else, or setting targets, points targets, and goal targets. He's good at that kind of stuff. But I don't think it's the pressure on a weekly basis. And it does get pressurised that you have to win every week and people booing you to draw and all that. I get that. But there's a lot of games where you're thinking, especially at home, it's a case of there's no jeopardy for the manager.
I think that's a really good point. I honestly hadn't crossed my mind that it might be a lack of pressure. I think you make a good point.
Lack of jeopardy, I think, because managers are weird egomaniacs who thrive on. I mean, the utter. I mean, the rest of us we was standing in the touchline with our drawers soaked and put the pressure. These guys thrive on this kind of adrenaline rush. Most of us would be wearing the Pampers. I mean, so I don't know. That's just my own COD psychology kind of view on it.
That makes sense to me. To be honest, that's something that occurred to me.
I don't know.
Before I let you go, Mick, you mentioned obviously you've been on your travels with Celtic this summer, but it's not over yet. Como this coming week.
It's a disgrace, really, what they put me through in this company. I mean, forcing me to go to these places. It really is. I
don't know how they sleep, to be honest. It's bang out of order.
Must be stretching my human rights. I mean, having to do these kind of things.
Have you been to Como before?
I've not. I was in Bergamo last year, which is down the road. I absolutely loved. I mean, Bergamo, it's a cracking game as well, but the actual town was just sensational. Loved it. I've been a few places in Italy, Rome and Naples and the Amalfi Coast and all that stuff. It's been a great. Italy's sensational. It's not going to help with my rapid weight gain over this summer.
I was going to say that. I went to the Milan Derby, in fact, in February, and obviously Como was just down the road, and we went to Como, and it was just brilliant. Honestly, I don't know what I was expecting, but I didn't really have my hopes up, but I didn't want to leave. It was brilliant. It was beautiful.
I've heard it's a fantastic place. I mean, it's going to be busy working, obviously. It's going to be hard.
Of course.
It's actually quite a hectic itinerary, but I'm sure it's if you're going to work in anywhere, it's a place that's it's not the worst.
I went and saw the stadium as well, the Como Stadium, and it's really weird because it's like, I mean, this sounds really, I'm being disrespectful, but it's like, it's almost like a Dens Park, or it's this wee stadium.
They're not historically a big team.
And then they're signing all these, £30 million players and all that. It's kind of weird.
They're Novo Riche in those parts, aren't they? They've been given some investment. But no, it had the grounds right on the water as well, which apparently made me stunning. So it's
beautiful. It's really good.
Definitely worst places to work.
So how long do you go out there for?
We're going Tuesday, play Ajax Thursday, and then they'll play either Como or Al Ahly, the Saudi team, at the weekend. Then up the road and back to normality, and back on that. There's that treadmill's getting put down eventually at some point. It's been gathering dust up there all summer.
Aye.
So it's either that or it's going to be these Jags that we can get away with. It's been a damaging summer.
We'll try and get the podcast sponsored by Ozempic. That's it.
See, for journalists, honestly, it's like pre-season training for players and journalists. It's the complete opposite. They're losing the weight and we're piling it on.
It's a 180 flip.
I don't think Italian food's going to help it either. So this could be another damaging week. Another setback.
Well, look, mate, I hope it all goes well for you. I hope you have a lovely time, and I guess safe travel when the time comes.
I've got one seat getting out and 2 seats booked coming back.
On that note, thanks very much for listening to the Celtic Pod. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, maybe I'll be able to drag Mick on, but we'll see. But thanks for listening.
Try and fit through the door.
That's it. Mick, always a pleasure.
No worries, mate. All the best. We'll catch you soon. We'll speak to you out there. We'll speak to you out there in Como, no doubt.
Aye, absolutely. And thanks for listening at home. Cheers.